Welcome back to the Adventure Athletes podcast, Wales' #1 podcast for adventure athletes, sharing stories from those creating a difference within themselves to benefit others. In this week's episode, I sit down with Mike Jenkins, an ultra runner here locally in South Wales, and now a very good friend of mine who came to support the end of my 496 challenge. In this week's episode, we talk about transitioning from road running to trail running, the darker side of the running community, praising slower runners and why we should do it more often, and finding people to push you past your limits, or as Mike says, finding your John. Now, I do want to give a shout out to one of the listeners quickly, so a quick shout out to George Griffiths, who completed his first ultra marathon in the past few weeks. It was a 50k ultra marathon. He completed it in 6 hours and 30 minutes, placing 12th overall. Now, for your first ultra marathon, that is incredible, so big shout out to George and his attempt at the Dartmoor Winter Traverse. At the end of each episode, we do like to set a challenge to you guys, the listeners, so make sure you listen all the way to the end for this week's challenge. Now, talking about challenges, I want to talk about my fundraising for BigMoose. So as you all know, I've been fundraising for BigMoose. I'm aiming for £10,000 this year, and I'm doing this through various different challenges. So the 496, I do a weekly run club in Pontyclean, various smaller challenges, but the next big one is I've applied for a Guinness World Record of the greatest distance covered doing a tyre flip in 24 hours. Now, the current record is 11.2k. I have applied and been accepted to attempt to do a half marathon. So I'm going to be attempting a half marathon tyre flip in 24 hours, but you guys know me, I'm probably going to push it a bit more. So to find out more about that, follow me on Instagram at the Adventure Athletes Training. Follow along the journey and see how I'm going to take this mammoth challenge. But for now, enjoy the podcast. For those of you that don't know, Mike followed me on Instagram after... Did you listen to one of the podcasts?
I can't remember which way around it was. I think I saw snippets of one of the podcasts you did with Mike Jenkins.
Okay.
So I think I followed you off the back of one of your snippets. Do you know you make those three posts and then you put them across?
Yeah.
I followed you off the back of that because I really like what Reece does, and obviously I'm going to do a lot of Pegasus events this year, and I knew Reece when we were kids, although I don't think he remembers me, but I used to play football against him a lot of the weekends. That's what made me follow the channel, and then obviously I saw your your other account, which is your training one, when you were sharing videos around your amazing 496 challenge, and I really resonated with you through that, and I know... day 26, I know we spoke about it before, come on. Day 26 really hit home. You showed, you had tears in your eyes. And as a man who, I am quite an emotional person, I am an open person. I keep a lot in my head, if I'm honest. But I am relatively open, especially when I go running and people I'm close to. But to see the vulnerability that come out of you, oh my God, I was almost in tears watching you. And why it resonated so much, Will, is because I've been there in those runs where it fucking hurts and you were in so much pain. But what was so inspiring, because you've told every twat on the internet you're doing this challenge, you know you're having to turn up and having to do it.
Yeah.
So, and I think I commented on that day, one foot in front of the other or something along those lines.
Something along those lines, yeah.
And it's true, I think all you've got to do in running, and that's why it's so beautiful and simple, you've just got to put one foot in front of the other. It doesn't matter if you're an elite runner. It doesn't matter if you're the slowest runner. It's a really simple action. One foot in front of the other. Now, it sounds easier on paper than it does when you're, so many kilometres or miles into a long run. But yeah, I thought you were massively inspiring. And then obviously I reached out I wanted to come and join you if I could, preferably on the last day. Not because I wanted the glory of being with you on the last day, but I wanted to join you and get to learn more about you, because I think that's important.
And I'd never met you before that, and to have you turn up on the last day and run the whole thing with me, I was saying this it'll be the last podcast out before this one, because I literally recorded it last night.
Yeah.
So you haven't heard this yet. but like I was saying how much that meant to me to have someone that I've never met before.
Yeah.
We've only spoken briefly on Instagram a few times. To have you turn up and do the whole thing with me, and like there were other people that I know that were meant to turn up and didn't turn up. So to have like a complete stranger, I was like, wow, like that's commitment. And yeah, it meant the world to me on that day.
Oh no, it was an absolute pleasure to meet you. It was selfishly, I wanted to kind of meet you. I loved your channel. I love the podcasts. So to come and learn more about what you do, I thought like also I got a lot out of it as well, Will. So it wasn't just it was something for me as well. And again, like I've said before, it's really important to talk. And I thought, I've got a lot of time to go and run with this lad now. I can get some stuff off my chest. And we talked about all sorts, didn't we? We could have had a whole podcast for that.
Yeah,
the 19
could have been like a 2-episode podcast because it was so long, or just a Bob Thomas podcast because he just spoke forever on it.
And I loved Bob Thomas's episode. I think I was working from home that day, and I had my laptop on my lap on the sofa, and I just had that on my speakers, and it was great to meet Bob during that day because he came and did 4 laps.
Yeah, he did the first 4 laps.
And Bob Thomas is a fantastic runner, and I got loads of information out of him and advice. And I'm generally someone that don't like to take advice from people because I'm one of those classic people who I think I know better. I think a lot of us like that. Yeah. You get so drawn into I know my body, I know what works, but actually I really took on board what Bob says, so thanks Bob. But yeah, it was a real pleasure, and and I really enjoyed it. It was good crack on it. Yeah. Although it did rain quite a bit, and there was some sections of Butte Park which were a bit tasty. Yeah. But bear in mind, I'm someone that goes and runs in these conditions in the mountains and gets absolutely bogging in mud, and it was testing, and obviously it's a lot of concrete. Yeah. I'm a trail runner now, and I know I've moved from road to trail years ago, but just that constant pounding. But it was great, and you were so uplifting and chirpy throughout. It was quite interesting.
There was that one point where I wasn't there, and you commented on it, and you was like, "You've gone quiet now."
Well, that was near the end.
You're struggling, aren't you?
To be fair,
that was lap 6 and 7.
Yeah, I think it's that thing, isn't it? When you, I think Bob said about it on his episode. It doesn't matter the distance you're doing. There's that point of a run or a race where it gets really fucking hard, and so if you're doing 10 miles. Mile 7 to 9 tends to be pretty shit, right? Yeah. And then you have a nice lift right at the end because it's come to the end. And it's the same. I've done loads of ultras now, and my marathon point just comes past. You're like, oh, I'm 26 miles and I'm feeling fine. My first marathon, honest to God, I was running next to a train track. Gloucester was my first marathon in 2017, and it's still my PB. Right? It was when I took road running really serious. And I think it was mile 21, 22. It was next to a train track. Honest to God, I was saying to myself, if the fucking train was coming out, I would happily just stand in front of it, just to alleviate the pain, because I was going for I had my own tire, because when you're a road runner, and I think this is what road running is amazing for this, but also it's a bastard for it. You set targets for time, and I think there's so much pressure you can feel during a marathon. And people who do marathons and listen to this, they'll know you get into that mile 21, 22, and you might just be on target pace, so you can't slip up. And I just wanted to fucking end it. That, honest to God, it was tempting to stand, and I was genuinely the honest thoughts I was having in my brain. And it was fine. Like, you get through it. They call it the wall, don't they? But I think it's a mental thing. And once you've knocked off a distance, you've knocked it off. I've never hit the wall again in any race since then. I've had tough moments. But every other marathon I did after that, when I was a road runner, never hit that wall. Because mentally you knock off a distance and you can always do it. Yeah. Like I did a 50 last year, and the thought of doing a 50 now is actually all right. I think, well, I've done it before. I know I can do it. And I had a little bit in the tank at the end. So I was thinking, I could have probably given more. So mentally, I'm like, okay. And that's why I signed up to a fucking 100-mile race. Although I did finish the race, and my girlfriend at the time, I did say to her, don't let me sign up to a 100-mile race. I said, just don't let me do it. Whatever I fucking say, you're going to say no. You told me no. But a few weeks later, on the computer. You're bored, and you're at home.
Yeah.
You starting to feel the low after your high. Shit, what do I need to do to get back up there? It's like, ironically, I called my 50 mile. It was the Dragon 50 with Run Walk Crawl, fantastic event. I called that last year Chasing the Dragon. I think it was quite apt, because I think achieving things that you want to achieve, it's all relative. If you're going after a 5k, if you're doing Couch to 5k, that 5k, first time to do a 5k without stopping, that's like the heroin, isn't it? It's like, oh shit. And then you go, right, what's next? So 50 was my thing last year. Right, I've got to get there. So I called it Chasing the Dragon, which was, kind of linked with the actual race name. But again, you hit these goals, and then you're like, shit, I need to move the goalposts again now. So the 100 mile thing is my thing this year, so I'm doing a Pona. But I've also decided to enter the Pegasus Grand Slam as well. So not only am I doing this 100 mile race in the mountains, I've got 3 races either side, so 7 races in it works out 5 months really. I know they say 6, but actually if you actually work out, actually it's actually 5 months, a 5 month period. So that's going to be fun this year, and that's why I need the Johns in my life.
Yeah.
That are going to push me in training and on these recce runs that we're doing.
Yeah. It sounds great. Like, you've got so much planned. That's one of the reasons why I got you on. And then just everything you shared with me when we were out running. Yeah. And then afterwards, like, the thing that I feel you got the most out of that run was signing up to BigMoose, which I thought was honestly... that sums up why I did the 496 in the end. I was saying in my podcast last night, like, as soon as I said and committed, I'm raising £10,000 for BigMoose. My 496 now is a fundraiser for BigMoose. I'm raising awareness for it, and I'm being vulnerable in front of everyone. Like, I wouldn't have posted that video. Like, if it was just the challenge for me, like when I started, I wouldn't have been crying on camera and sharing it. But the fact that I'm trying to get other people to be vulnerable now and sign up and go to therapy, I was like, I have to do it myself and show people, and that's how I'm going to get people to sign up. And then that's obviously where you resonated with it.
Massively.
And then talking to you, and I was just like, listening to your story, I think you could benefit from going and seeing them. And then, like, within the week, you'd message me being like, I've signed up for my first therapy session, like, thank you so much.
Yeah.
And I was like, this is why I did what I was doing.
Yeah, and I think there's going to be people listening to this, they'll probably be a bit shocked hearing this, but I had my first therapy session ever on Friday, and it was fucking incredible, if I'm honest. So I've heard about BigMoose because I've seen in the ultra community there's a lot of fundraising that happens, and there's a lot of friends that I've made who have fundraised for BigMoose. So I've seen what they've done, kind of watched from a distance, in awe of the actual charity. I've looked into them, but actually meeting you and seeing the first hand the impact it had on you from a positive perspective, and then you telling me about it, it opened my eyes up to go and learn a bit more about myself and why I am the way I am. Give you a bit of a background. There's things that happened in my life which people would never know about when I was younger. I know everyone's got a story. Everyone's had a lot of people have a tough upbringing, and classic. I grew up on a council estate. We didn't have much. My mum and dad split up when I was about 12, but we were homeless for a couple of years. I think 18 months, if I remember. And not on the street homeless, but we were living with my mum's cousin, with my auntie, and that was really, it's humbling when you've not really got a set place to live. I grew up really young. My mum would go to work, and I'd look over my brother and sister, and I grew up really young, and there was always this pressure that I've had from a very young age to succeed in everything I do. So I'd like to think I've got my shit together. But that comes with a massive weight on your shoulders, like, every day. When I wake up in the morning, it's like, fuck, there's so much pressure on me today to succeed in work, to succeed in a relationship, to succeed with my children, to succeed in running. Like, running puts pressure on me. I like to do this thing in running where I'm not going to use those C words because this is what I normally say, but I say, tell every twat on the internet you're going to do something, and then I have to turn up because I'm one of those people that doesn't want to lose face. It's really important to me that I've got a lot of pride around that. So if I tell someone I'm going to do something, I will go and do it. And I like to think that your last day of the 496 is kind of testament to my personality. Yeah. I said I was going to be there, and I was there. You turned up late, actually. Yeah. So
I'm blaming my mum.
I was there on time. Well, to be fair, your mum did come from London, so yeah. So I'm someone that really struggle. I don't struggle with the expectations, but it's always on me. Because when you've got your shit together, people you're not allowed a bad day.
Yeah.
You're not allowed a bad day, or at least that's what I tell myself. So I reached out to BigMoose. Within 24 hours, I was booked in for within a week. Just amazing. So I give a bit of a background, the kind of what I wanted to talk about, and what they do is they pair you with someone that they think best suits your needs. And I was paired with this wonderful guy, and I went on Friday, got to have some verbal diarrhea, which was what I needed. I think sometimes, and I'm hoping people listen to this kind of take this on board, sometimes when someone needs to talk about stuff, just shut up and listen. So he did that. I got to say stuff I've never told anyone, and this stuff I won't say on camera, but I said stuff to him I've never told anyone. And then I felt so much better for it, and I was able to process it a little bit more. And then I actually left thinking, it's not that bad, actually. It's not that bad. Now I've said it, it's out there, it's not that bad. So I'm a massive advocate of what BigMoose do. And then obviously on the back of that, last week, before my first session, I started my own fundraising page, right? So when I've done the commentary on the actual page, I didn't actually say that BigMoose helping me, because I just didn't put on it, but I said, look, BigMoose do some wonderful thing, it really helps people, and I think I'm up to 310 quid as of today. So people are so generous, and they really get behind charities where they can see the difference. And sometimes, look, I wouldn't knock massive big charities that do amazing work, but with BigMoose, that money's going straight to help a real person straight away, like the likes of us. So I look, this podcast is me very much. I'm in a journey, so I'm in the middle of this 100-mile training. I'm in the middle of therapy. I'm not someone who's coming on after I've done all this. So you're getting the person I was going through it all right this second. Finally, I've had to do homework today. So I had to. It's called an emotional needs audit. So you score yourself based on the 9 emotional needs that humans need, and then I got to take that back to my therapist this week and talk through things. So yeah.
No, it's amazing to hear that you've gone through all of that, and I'm excited to be part of the journey. That makes me more excited than doing my own journey, is being a part of others. I think that's the sort of stage that I'm at in life now, is things aren't about me anymore. I've done that, I've been there, I've done all these things for myself. Now I'm at the point where I want to give back, and like you were saying to me earlier, that's what you think is going to happen after your 100-miler. It's going to be I've achieved the things I want to achieve. How can I help other people now?
I think so. After my first ever marathon, which was 2017, approximately 3 weeks after, I went into a spiral low. I think the word depression gets kind of thrown around like it's gone out of fashion, where I think actually you're just allowed to be low. I think it's as normal as being happy, and that what caused me then to go and do another marathon. Right now, 2018 was my last. I did a Manchester Marathon in 2018. That's the last road race I've ever entered. I've only ever done ultras since then. I'm not an event person. If I'm honest, most of my stuff is I just go out and do it for the crack of doing it rather than to get a medal, if that makes sense. So I've completely lost my train of thought now. But yeah, I think just putting yourself out there and being brave and talking is important. But equally, you're allowed to be low. So I wouldn't say I've cracked what happiness is, but I think happiness for me is having the ability to accept being sad.
Yeah.
It's when you can accept a sad emotion and say, do you know what? Being sad about this is as normal as being happy about that.
Yeah.
Then actually, it's all right, because then you ride the pain, you feel the pain, you go through the trauma, and you come out the other side absolutely fine. So I like to think I am happy now, but you never know. We're humans, and you know, one day we're happy, the next day things may be tough, and I think being a man sometimes is fucking hard. Like there's a lot of pressure to succeed, and there's a lot of pressure to deliver and to provide, and it goes back to our the caveman days, I guess. I don't know the right word to use, but that's what we were born to do. And when we feel like we're not doing that, or we don't feel any worth, it's fucking horrible, isn't it? I think, and that's why I run. I think because I think I grew up not really feeling part of a group. I played football like my whole life, right? So I was always in a team, but I never really felt a part of the group. I'm not a laddie lad. Look, don't get me wrong, I can get on with those people. I can adapt my personality to kind of suit and be a part of a group. But I always felt like I was a bit of a messed up circle in a room full of squares, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think, again, I've lost my trail of thought again because I'm just going off topic and stuff. But I think it's because it's something that means so much to me around how men feel, and I think just getting out there, moving your body, and having something to work towards does give you that sense of worth.
Yeah.
And I think you need that as a man, because you need to be. I want people to respect me. I want other men to respect me. So I finally found a sport where I feel like I've got some sort of worth, and this is why I go after these challenges. Because I don't really get it from anywhere else in my life, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that definitely makes sense. Something that you made me reflect on then, and I feel like some people might take this badly, but I'm going to say it anyway, is the thought that depression in itself and feeling those lows is a privilege. And like I'll elaborate on it. Like I heard that quote from, I believe it was Mike Tyson, or someone along that caliber of people. 50 Cent, that's it.
I know the one.
There you go. Yeah, about how depression is a privilege. Because if you think about it, like I connected this to Maslow's hierarchy of needs, and then I linked it back to what I went through when I was homeless. And it was like when I was homeless and I was sleeping on the fire station, my concern was, how am I getting my food? Because there's no way for me to cook here. How am I going to find somewhere for me to live? And I was concerned with like my basic needs of like food, shelter, water, things like that. And then you sort of go up that, and then it's like, right, the next one's security. Like, do I feel secure in my job and in my circumstances? And you get to a point that, like, when you're in the bottom bit, you don't feel depression because you're so concerned with like surviving and getting on and filling those needs. And then the higher up you get through the chain of things, the more you sort of feel a bit lost. And it's only when you're in that top part, and they call it self-actualization, where you feel like you've got a purpose. Up until you've reached the very top of that and you feel on top of the world, like everything before that, that's where sort of depression comes in, I feel. You've got the bottom bit where it's like you're not depressed because you're worried about survival. Then you go up more, and then it's like, I'm depressed because I feel like I should be getting this. I feel like I should be getting that. This is where I see myself being the best version of me. And until you reach that, you're sort of, that's what depression sort of comes down to in my head.
Yeah, I think you can have your own kind of way of describing depression. We talked about this actually when you were doing your last day of the 496. If I haven't made my bed, so if I go back to my bedroom and I'm like, I have to have a word with myself, that's always my first sign for me. It's my little trigger. If I haven't made my bed, I know I need to have a fucking word with myself and be quite stern with myself, because that for me starts getting into the whole standards thing that I put on myself. If I'm not achieving these basic things that I need to achieve, that I know that that's how it not spirals, because I don't get depression. I just don't, right? I get low points, But I don't believe it's depression, if I'm honest. So I think it's important to understand sometimes those little triggers. How would you, so when you've gone through those real bad things, what positive things do you think have come out of it? Because I think when I went to therapy, talking about therapy now, we talked about reframing. So reframing bad trauma with like a positive spin on it. So the shit that's happened to you, I don't know, for example, you've been homeless, and you were homeless during COVID and being kind of kicked out of the place you were in. What positive come from that, do you think? I know I'm turning the podcast onto you, but I'm really interested to hear and how it impacted you positively, because there must be some positives that came from that, from the shit that happened.
Yeah. This is something that I've always struggled with doing, is that reframing. And I spoke to my therapist about it.
We've got the same therapist.
No, it's different therapists. Yeah. But we came to the conclusion that I suck at the reframing stuff. And the way I play it out in my head was always... Obviously, it makes you who you are as a person, and it makes me care about people more, because I don't ever want to see someone go through the sort of stuff that I've been through.
Empathetic.
So then I always said to myself, when I am going through these dark places in my life, that I have to go through this so then I can help other people not go through it. That was always what I told myself, and that's how I justified how I felt. And I was like, I'm never going to be okay, because if I was okay, I wouldn't be able to help others. And he pointed out to me that is a load of bollocks, and that's me having negative self-worth, essentially.
That sounds like you had no self-worth whatsoever, because you're entitled to joy, you're entitled to pleasure, you're entitled to happiness, just the same as anyone else on the planet. So, but that's how you think and that's how you feel, and I think it's important to validate that that's your reality, that's your truth, innit? My ex-partner was very good at explaining this sort of stuff to me. So, like, the world only exists because I perceive it, right? So my world is completely different to yours. So in this room, there's two versions of the world, isn't it? It's because the world only exists because that's what you see, feel, and hear, and et cetera, et cetera. Now, I'm the main story in my world, right? It's like, is it the Truman Show with Jim Carrey? And you were the same as well. So however you perceive the world is the truth, isn't it? What you consume, or that's the truth. That's why it's important to speak good to yourself. Because even if you take the piss out of yourself, if you speak bad about yourself, that's the truth, because that's what you create your own world. So I think it's important sometimes to take control of your perception and your world.
Yeah.
If you know, I don't know, this is a good way of looking at it. There's not one of me, right? There's my version of me that I feel and perceive. If I know 1,000 people, there's 1,000 versions of me out there. So there's 1,000 different worlds that all know me, and they all have their own perceptions of me. So I think it's important, actually, when you do let off steam and talk about how you feel, that other people will go, yeah, if that's how you feel, that's valid, and you should be supported at that. What you get a lot of, I think, is people who are like, that's bullshit. Well, no, it's not. It's not bullshit. It's how they feel.
Yeah.
And I think that's what I got from therapy. We're not really talking much about running, but I think this is an important topic to talk about. That therapist validated everything I said. So the way I was feeling, he was like, yeah. And I was thinking, no, actually someone's let me say how I feel and actually let me feel it.
Yeah.
And you don't always get that. When, I'm guilty of this as a dad. If your child falls over and cries, what do parents do? Oh, you're okay. You're fine. Oh, don't it? Wipe your knee off. You'll be fine. Stop crying. That kid's in pain. Like, let him cry. Let him feel the pain. That's the emotion. That's the thing they have. And I think we're sometimes quick as humans to dismiss other people's feelings. Everyone's feelings are valid. Don't matter what class you come from, class system you come from. Doesn't matter how much money you got. I'm from lower class. That's where I grew up, and I'm really proud of where I grew up. And I found joy in going out on a bike. I didn't have internet until I was an adult. Didn't have a phone until I was an adult. So joy to me was no hand riding around on my bike with my friends and really simple things like that. Playing football against a garage door.
Yeah.
They were the joys that I had growing up. But likewise, there'd be people who grew up with loads of money. They're entitled to joy as well. And then we sometimes we'll kind of have a laugh and a joke at people that grew up with a lot of privilege. But that's not their fault, is it? That's their world as well, and they have those feelings. I know I've gone totally off. I'm like a tree with loads of branches. I am.
No, that's fine. I wanted to bring it back to what you were saying about being a parent, and when you're saying like when your kids fall over, and you're like, no, you're okay, like it's fine. Something like I learnt this through coaching, and like generally, like especially young kids, what you tell them is like truth in their head. And I noticed like there's some, I hate admitting this, but there's some gymnasts that you can see have got a real talent.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's obvious. And as a coach, you try not to like favouritize them or whatever, but you do. Like you're gonna have kids that you're gonna be really good compared to these others, and you might be wrong, but that's your perception. And if you, like, I've had moments where like I've sat down with a kid and I've been like, look, you've got something about you, like don't waste this. And then within like the next few weeks, you can see that they've gone home and that's their truth, is they're like, wow, I can be something at this. And their work rate instantly changes and they will work so much harder because they now believe it, because that's what you've said, and whatever you say is the truth. Young kids, they don't process things
absolutely
like the same. But then I wanted to take it on to the way I've been framing when little kids now get hurt and stuff, is instead of being like, oh, you're okay, or like just leaving them to cry or whatever it might be, what I've started saying to them, because this is a value I want to build in them, is, oh, it's a good thing you're tough, isn't it? So I'm not taking away like, oh, that hurts, that's painful, but I'm now trying to tell them, you're strong enough to deal with this. And then they'll be like, yeah, I am tough. And then you'll see them fall off again the next time and they'll still be like, oh, that hurts, but I'm tough, I can deal with this. And like framing it like that rather than just dismissing it, I thought was so helpful to my coaching.
Yeah, and I think that it's really inspiring to them, knowing that there's some good that can come from pain. And I think it link it to running as well, and I think there's real joy in suffering. You know what I mean? There's a real it's a real thing being out. Say if you're during an ultra, because I use ultra because that's what I like to do. You might be 30 miles in and it's really fucking hurting, but you're going to get through that. One foot in front of the other, you're going to get to the end, and you're going to look back and go, I fucking enjoyed that suffering. Funny enough, the race last year, I think I was at mile 45, and I latched on to this lady called Rhiannon, and she was brilliant. All we did was chat shit, right, just to get through the race. So I learned a lot about her family, and her kids love playing hockey, and she knew everything about my family. That's what you do in ultras. You end up spilling your life to these randomers, and they become like they're part of your life then forever. Like you forge those friendships on the trails. And she was going through a bit of a bad spell. I think I was a little bit, but then I was giving her advice while I was going through the pain, and I was like, just remember now, we signed up to this shit. We're here. We need to fucking enjoy the pain and enjoy the suffering. So going back to your point for gymnastics, there'll probably be a time with those kids when they do hurt themselves, they're like, yeah, and actually feeling pain just proves they're just human. Do you know what I mean? It's just, again, feeling pain, being sad is the same as feeling joy and feeling high, isn't it? I think we just need to accept it as society that you're allowed to be sad, like, feel the pain, be emotional, have a cry, whatever works for you. For me, I like running up hills, doing a hill session when I'm not feeling great. Yeah. That's what gives me, ironically, a lot of peace, just by being in loads of pain, I guess, inside my lungs.
I think this is a great point to ask one of the questions that was sent in. This was sent in by Kingsley, as he's runner Kinglin on Instagram, I believe.
Okay.
He's an avid listener of the podcast, and he sent in the question, when you're going through like a load of pain and your body's just screaming for you to stop, how do you get through those moments?
I think I just said one where you paid to go and get, you're paying for an ultra, you're paying to go through the pain. So one, that's what you're there for, because I think, and when you start to get used to it and you realise there is some beauty in the pain, you sort of twistedly enjoy it. Well, you don't enjoy it, it's horrible at the time, and that's why it's pain, because pain's, it's not the best thing in the world. The big one for me is remembering that I've told everyone I'm going to do it, and I'm someone with so much pride. I'm going to do it because I've never DNF'd. Touch wood, doesn't happen this year. It could do, but I tell everyone I know my plans. It's not, I do love talking about my running, and I do love chatting, so there is that. But when you tell everyone you're going to do something, and I'm very much one of these people, I think you should do what you say, not say what you do. So don't just talk about it. Goggins, right? I know Goggins might get a lot of stick. Goggins is a massive inspiration to a lot of people for loads of reasons. He can just trigger people to go and do shit because you're thinking, fuck, I'm not doing very well. Look at Goggins. Look what he does. Don't talk about it. Be about it. It might be Goggins. It might not be. I think it was him. And I think it's true. Like if you're gonna say you're gonna do something, you've got to go and turn up. Yeah. Because that's for me that's what pride is, and that's what being a man is for me. It happens a lot. I get people that say, "Oh yeah, I'll come out with you," and then they don't fucking turn up. I'm like, "What? Just tell me you don't want to come out." It's easier if someone says no.
Yeah.
I remember speaking to there's a lad I knew growing up. He was an amazing athlete, Calvin McLagan. So big up to Calvin. Fantastic 100-meter runner, footballer, super fast, run for Wales and stuff like that. He goes to the same barbers as me, and I remember going in one day, I was like, "Calvin, you can come out on the long run with me?" And he said, "No, fuck off, I will never go out with you." And I love that, because I'm like, well, I know Calvin's never going to come out with me.
Yeah.
Because he's just fucking honest from the outset. So it can be frustrating sometimes when people are not like me. Like if I say I'm going to do something, I'll turn up and do it, like the last day of the 496, because that's just how I am. And I suppose to answer Kingsley's question, I've told everyone I'm going to do it, so I'm going to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'd sort of get this feeling from you that you've had a lot of people that haven't done the things that they said they were going to do with you, to the point where I noticed it when you was messaging me like the past couple of days about coming on and being like, "Are we still on for today? Yeah, is that all right? Can I still come around?"
I didn't even think about that.
Yeah, but I clicked onto that because I was like, yeah, like he's someone, because I knew we'd spoken about it before. I was like, he's someone that people have said they're going to do stuff and they've let him down, so he has to constantly check with them to be like, "Are you still doing that?" It's not
that I get let down as such. It's more that it's if I'm planning to go out and do going on an adventure, and we haven't really got into why I moved from road to trail, but we'll get there eventually. If I'm someone that's planned an adventure, bear in mind I'm a single dad of 2. I got a national job. I work away. I'm planning to go and drive somewhere, because I'll always be the one that drives generally, because I'm just I'll look after everyone. I'll do the driving, and if they say, "Oh yeah, I'm up for it," to me that's like, yes, they're in. Now I do understand people have lives and things change and stuff like that, but sometimes people are not always the same as you, are they? And I think I find it hard sometimes to process that people are not like me. This whole thing around me feeling like a messed up circle in a room full of squares, I'm me. I'm beautifully, uniquely myself, the same you'll be. So it's a really good point that you brought up around me messaging you. Maybe that's the thing I wasn't very conscious about, that always checking that something's actually going to turn up, because I do get a lot of people that say yes.
Click onto it because I went through the same thing. I used to get let down a lot. I was always the same as you, where it's like, I say I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it. And that always came from, there were so many things I wanted to do when I was younger. And I'd always ask people, like, "Oh yeah, you're going to do this with me?" And it was always like, I'd get let down and then I wouldn't do it. And I hated that, because I was like, I really wanted to do that thing. And then one day it just clicked and I was like, I don't have to rely on other people to do these things. So I remember I was like, booking a holiday with people, and I was like, look, let's choose the cheapest place that Megabus go to. Like, let's just book it. Like, these are the dates.
You didn't go to Newport, did you?
No. So, was booking it, and it was meant to be Germany. We was going to go somewhere in Germany, and then I was like, it came to booking it, and I was like, we said if there's anywhere cheaper, we're going to go there instead. And I found a return ticket to Belgium for like a tenner, and I was like, guys, that's like a third of the price of Germany. Like 30 quid, still not a lot to get to Germany, but I was like, oh, it's a tenner. And then they're like, oh yeah, like we're not doing those dates now. And then I was just like, fuck it, I'm still going to Belgium. And I just went on my own. And my dad always finds it funny because I was a massive introvert as a kid. I wouldn't go up to the ice cream man on my own to ask for an ice cream. I'd always have to take my mum and my brother with me just to get like an ice cream. And I knew the ice cream man, like, but like even up until I was like 13, 14, like I still wouldn't go out and like talk to shopkeepers to buy stuff. I'd refuse. Because
Can you speak on the phone? Can you ring up, like, say if you need to change your internet? Are you the type that can ring up and say, look, I wanna leave, or?
Back then, no, 100% no. And then it got to like that holiday, and then my dad found it funny because I still wouldn't go to shopkeepers and ask for stuff. But randomly on this coach to Belgium, I had nowhere to stay. I didn't plan it at all. I was just going to sleep on the streets. And I got talking to this guy from Liverpool on the coach who now lives in Belgium. And he let me stay with him for the whole 10 days I was there. He gave me the only key to his flat and was like, just make sure you're back in before I'm back from work. And he would take me out every night and like we'd go out for food, we'd go out drinking. And it was just like, my dad's like, how do you manage that? Like, you're the most extroverted introvert I've ever met. So for him to see me go through that, and now I do a podcast as my thing. It's
and
amazing.
that just shows like how far you've come. So from someone that couldn't go and get an ice cream to someone who's now got strangers walking in the house and chatting shit. It's like
on a weekly basis.
On a weekly basis, it's like it's admirable. Like honestly, it's really good, and it's really interesting. You talk about that stranger, all that kindness. And I think it's a thing in running, and I know all runners listening to this will 100% get this. No one gives you more love around your accomplishments than random strangers like on the internet.
Yeah.
No one. Your friends and your family, they don't. Maybe it's because they're close to you, or I don't know what it is in the psychology of it, but you'll never get more love than you do from random strangers. Like, I've made so many good friends over the last year from trail running. Like, incredible. And they all started out as just strangers on the internet. You know, and they like your shit, and they start with. Then you chat to them, then you meet them, go out for a run, and then you become friends. And I don't know what your experience is with it, but you don't tend to get that from close friends and family. They're not really. Like, I didn't have many when I did my 50. Now, bearing in mind, like that was like the big. I saw it as like the biggest day of my life last year because I put so much onto it. This whole chasing the dragon thing. There were some of my like really good friends didn't even message me to say, "Oh, well done, mate." Nothing.
Yeah.
Don't. And it's mad when you think about it, because I always think, right, if that was them, I'd be like, "Fucking, I'm so proud of you, mate."
Yeah.
And it goes back to the whole thing. It's not everyone's the same as you, and stuff like that. So
that's what I was getting at earlier when I was talking about the last day of the 496, and a random guy that I've never met turns up to do my final run with me, and like close friends of mine didn't.
Yeah.
And like that just like spoke volumes to me. And like you're saying, like all the people being like, "Well done, you've smashed that." Never met before in my life, but they've just followed me online.
Yeah, and a lot of these people will come from the running, ultra, trail, and athlete community, so they get it. They can kind of resonate with you, and because they know what you're going through. Maybe everyday people and family, they don't quite understand it. There's probably quite a bit of a beauty in not being understood sometimes. Like, if everyone become trail runners and ultra runners now, it wouldn't be so. I don't think it'd be so cool, if I'm honest, because like everyone's doing it.
Yeah.
This is the thing. So I moved from road running in 2018 over to trail, right? part of that is I got shit on. I got absolutely shit on when I was a road runner. So, you know, there's a lot of joy and medals and, you know, fancy Instagram pictures that come from being runners. But there's some shit sides to running as well, some real shit sides to running. I know I've alluded to some of it earlier where you have this high and then you have a low, because that's a thing. But also there's politics that get, you know, when you're a part of a run club, you know, I was a run leader for about 6 months in 2017 with an old running club. And politics wrecked road running for me because I just wanted to get up people running. Like that's I get a lot of joy from just being out and running with people. Selfishly because I want to chat, but also I just like to meet people. I'm just a social person. I'm very extroverted in that sense, you know. And I remember the people that run the running club, they weren't particularly happy that I wanted to go out on a Sunday and do a Sunday session, and they're like, no, you can't do a Sunday session, not under the umbrella of this running club, even though it's a social running club. It's not like an affiliated one with Welsh Athletics. But I thought, fuck it, I'm still going to go out on a Sunday and ask my friends to come out running with me. Oh God, you'd think I'd gone into their house and set their kitchen on fire. It's the only time, generally in my life, I felt bullied. I'd never got bullied until I was an adult, when I was a run leader. That's my truth, that's how I felt. And it was group chat, and there's loads of people in the group, and there was a couple of them that were really fucking nasty to me. Basically hoofed me out my running club. Now bear in mind, this running club are all 600 members. So you can imagine all my community, all the runners were pretty much part of this running club. I stopped running for 2.5 years, Well. Now you know me now as a runner, 2.5 years. I went on the occasional run, but I would run late at night to avoid bumping into anyone from running club because I felt so much shame from getting kicked out. Honest to God, I get fucking more emotional about that time in my life than anything that happened like as a kid, the real traumatic stuff. This one was worse. It's because I finally found a community that I felt worth and loved by, and then it got kind of taken away from me just because I wanted to run, just because I just wanted to go out and run on a Sunday, because people were so caught up about their own, what they wanted to do with the club and stuff like that. So I lost love for the community. I fucking hated running. I hated road runners with a passion. Just honestly, and that's me speaking from the fucking heart, it wrecked me for a couple of years. It took me a long time to get back out. But in 2020, what was it? Maybe it's a year and a half to 2. But 2019, funnily enough, we talk about Goggins. I was listening to Goggins' book on Audible, so you can listen to like an Audible version. I don't really like reading that much, if I'm honest. So listening to Audible, and his Audible version like cuts into like a podcast. So it comes in and he comes in and speaks with the narrator. I don't know if you've heard it.
I haven't heard it, but I've heard him talking about how it works.
Yeah, it's really unusual. It'd be like someone narrating over there and then you coming in and talking about your experiences. It's a different way. Now this is before he was mega famous, so I like to call myself a day oneer of Goggins, right, before he was fashionable. And I felt so shit about myself listening to his book because I was thinking, I'm a runner. Fucking hell, the story they used to tell about, like he did his first 100 miler with a couple of weeks' notice and that. I ended up signing up to my first ultra with like 9 weeks' notice. And bear in mind, I'd not run, so I didn't train for it. And that's how I became an ultra. I became an ultra runner because I fell out of love with the road community. There is another. I've gone back to roads, and I'll talk about it in a moment because I think it's important to shout out the positives as well, you know. So I had my first ultra in 2019. I rocked up to the start line. This mega cocky, arrogant road runner, sub 4 hour marathon runner. This would be nice. This would be alright, wouldn't it? You know, 9 minute. I was thinking 9 minute miles now. Fuck! I had the biggest slap in the face I've ever had in my life. I never wore a bag, right? Ever running ever. But I turned up to my first ultra, obviously I had to wear a bag because you have to have all the mandatory kit. And I got, the gun went off, I started running, and I looked at my watch and I was like 11:30 a mile. I was like, fuck, this is going to be a horrible day on my feet. So I ended up like seeing some friends that I knew from the road running community. So it felt really awkward because bearing in mind I'd been like this, I'd gone from being a run leader and helping people and being so into running to not seeing these people for so long, and they were like, "What are you doing here?" I was like, "Oh, I'm trained. I've just turned up first ultra. Let's wing it." So I ended up running with a couple of my friends, Georgie Lloyd. So shout out to Georgie and Renee. So and basically we just had a really fun day out. It was fucking horrible. It hurt, right, because I'd not trained. But that was my introduction to ultra running, and I fell in love with it. Well, because I had this amazing sense of accomplishment at the end of that day. It was like that fucking hit of heroin again. You know, I had the high again at the end of that day, and obviously I did have the low. But my journey into trail running, it wasn't because I loved trail. It's because I fucking hated road running, if I'm honest. Now, fast forward to now, like, there's ultras in the middle that I've done over years now. I'm probably seen as quite experienced runner now, I guess. But I was a more experienced road runner. Now I'm a member now of a different club, an affiliated club, Le Croupes in Cardiff. Now bear in mind I don't do much road running, but I do occasionally go to their club runs, and they were so supportive. And I got a massive shout out to that club. They're fantastic, really, really, really well run. The people are great. I've made some friends from that club, so I have kind of got not back into road running because I'm still doing everything on the trail really, but I'm starting to find some positives back in that community again.
Yeah.
It's mad. Some of the people I've spoken to from that club, they're like, "You're just mental, you are doing ultras." But I don't think it's that mental, as I've said earlier. I think road running is harder, if I'm honest. I know this might trigger some people, but I know some of your previous guests kind of agree with me.
Yeah, definitely.
I think it's harder to train fast than it is to train for endurance, I think. I'm fucking petrified of a 5k race. So if you said to me now, right, here's a pair of alpha flies, here's a pair of speed goats, this option is a 30-mile mountain run today with the speed goats, or you can put the alpha flies on and go and race your fastest 5k. I'd pick up the fucking speed goats 10 days out of 10, because it just literally scares the life out of me. Doing that. So I think it's important to know road running I hold in the highest regard from a toughness point of view, because I think it really is tough.
Yeah. It's just, when you're road running, I've said this 1,000 times, it's all about pace. It's you have to go out, you hit a pace, you don't hit that pace, you're not happy. And it's always that constant 1% gain, 1% gain, 1% gain. Whereas trails is just, you go out, you enjoy where you are, you enjoy your company, and just let the course decide how fast you run. You're not going to beat nature. Nature's going to win 100% of the time. You might have a good day every now and then, but majority of it is I can't beat my 5k road run on this track. It's so steep and muddy, and you're walking around puddles, and it's completely different. It
is different, and I think if you don't get joy from road running out of the actual run, there's not much joy anywhere else. You're generally not running with nice views. You're not really stopping for snacks. You're all in zone 3 or 4, so you're all blowing out your fucking arse. So there's not much joy apart from going after the times. It's fine. There's a world. It's important that we live in a world where there's competitiveness, and I'm a massive believer in that. So absolutely, I had my time doing the PBs. I used to be that arrogant twat that would wear a vest, short shorts. I didn't have carbon shoes wearing around when I was a road runner. But I had really expensive Asics, for example. I was that person, so I've lived it, and it's important to know, I've achieved everything that I wanted to achieve in road running. I did my Fast 5. I've done all my PBs and did my my marathon goals and stuff like that. So it was although shit hit the fan with being a run leader and losing the kind of love for that community, I come to a natural end with it anyway. And this is where kind of my background as a child and wanting to exceed and be good at everything, I wanted to kind of I needed that direction change. So this is the whole point when we talked about reframing. So now when I look back at that, I genuinely think, well, if I didn't have that episode and the drama, that I was probably a part of as well, it was partly my fault as well, because I should have just listened to him, is I probably wouldn't be this mad into trails now, and I don't think we've talked enough about trails. The thing I want to talk most today is like why trail running is just the best, right? So yeah, but without the shit in a road run, I wouldn't have the good. So the whole reframing really works in this instant for me.
Yeah.
So kind of moving nicely into trails and just the benefits of it. So like from someone that needs to feel part of a community, this is like an innate need that I have that I'd never really had growing up. I have found my people now. I'm generally content in life with the people I have around me in the things that I like to do. I've got very few friends, what I mean by friends, I mean close friends. You count on one hand, like the people like my brothers, you know? And then I'm everyone's friend, so I'm just this person that just... I remember seeing, funny enough, there was a show by Peter Kay called That Peter Kay Thing. It was this, I don't know if you've ever seen it.
I haven't seen it.
So it was his first ever comedy sort of series. Not many people know about it. It's before Phoenix Nights. There's a character in one of those episodes called Leonard. Now Leonard, obviously is a fake made-up character, although I think he's probably based it on someone from his hometown, if I'm honest. He was just an old man, lived on his own, and he just had a paper round. And I kind of resonate a lot with Leonard. Like, I live on my own. Yeah, don't get me wrong, I got my kids. But you can't have conversations with your kids that you can have with adults. So, like, I haven't got anyone I go home to. I haven't got anyone that cook for me when I get home and say, how was your day? Talk to me about your day. It's just me. Like, I go home and I'm quite a lonely person in that sense. A lot of people wouldn't get this from me. They see me out running with people. But generally, I'm 90% of the time, I work alone as well. So I work at home on my own. I've got that environment. I go to the office once every couple of weeks, once a week, and I've got that environment. But Leonard said something that's always resonated with me ever since I was a kid. He says, I'm everyone's friend, but I've got no friends. And I think I can't fucking see myself there a lot. So I have got friends, and I've got good friends, but not ones that fucking ride or die is like a proper American term, is the first one that comes to my head. With trail running, I've actually found a load of people. I'm like, fuck, they're my people. They've had trauma. I can be myself. I'm accepted. You know, I'm not fast anymore. Like, I'm not fast. I used to be pretty fast, but I'm not anymore. So I'm relatively quite a slow trail runner, I would say. That's fine. Like, I'm accepted from the community, and I think when you find that community, it's so empowering. So that's the best thing about trail running for me, is the people. It's not about the run itself. That's probably the bottom of the list. Snacks are above the run itself, so I think snacks is a good one. So I'm known for bringing like garlic buttered little roasties.
Nice.
And it's not because they're good for like fuel, and maybe they are good fuel. I'm rubbish when it comes to nutrition, but they're just like little moments of joy. And I think moments of joy is a really important factor with trail running. Like, I like to stop. Some of my mates fucking hate this when we're on trail running. I'll stop and get my phone out and take a photo, because I just think those little moments of joy are really important to grab hold of.
Yeah.
I'll give you an example. I was a mile 30 into my last race, and I was having a bit of a low point because it was just... Anyway, there was a lot of pebble beaches on this fucking race, right? And you can't run across a pebble beach. But there was this really cute dog. And I was like, can I pet your dog? And he was like, yeah. So I fucking picked the dog up. Owner was like, what the fuck? And I was like, I just need to fucking stroke the dog. And that just calmed me down instantly, and I had a lift. And I think it's a really good bit of advice. I don't like to give advice to people, because I always think the best advice you can ever get is just go out and run and learn yourself, and you are your best coach when it comes to running, for me. But like, having those little moments of joy is so important. And the views. I love a sunset and a sunrise. I'm quite soppy like that.
What's been your standout moment of joy from one of these events?
That's a really difficult question, because I think there's loads of... Oh, do you know what? I have got one. It's probably the finish to my 50. So I was running with this lady called Rhiannon, and we had about 200 metres left to go, 0.1 whatever miles. And I saw my friend John. So John had done... I'd signed up to the 50. John signed up to the 50 not long after me, and we trained together. And And then I was thinking, do I run with John? I run with him for 1 metre in the race. He fucking went, right? John ended up finishing second, right? And one of the best moments of my running life was the final corner. As I got to the final corner, I saw this big dude with fucking Crocs on. It's John. He's like, go on, Jenks, go on, they don't know you, son. Started shouting fucking Goggins things at me. And I had this big lift, and I was like, how'd you do? He's like, second. And I had this moment of fucking pride that my friend, who I train with, finished second in the same race as me. I don't get these feelings of like jealousy or like envy. I'm buzzing for him that he's finished second. And I had this feeling, I'm at the end, my friend's finished second, he's there with his fucking Crocs, looking like he does. I think he was eating something. He's giving me like the G up. Rhiannon's then gone, go on, just go, have a fucking quick finish. And then I just dapped it, right? And I think I looked at my pace at the end and I was doing like 7-minute miles, right, in the last couple of 100 metres. And there's a video of me finishing. And yeah, I think that gave me so much joy. Just all these things just happened really quick, and yeah. But it was mainly because I saw my friend at the end. I mean, he gave me that kick up the arse to finish strong.
Yeah. On the flip side of that, then, what's been your darkest moment from one of these events?
Oh God, I haven't got too many dark moments, to be fair. It's not a dark moment, but it's a really fucking frustrating moment that I had, and it's the same race. This just shows the fucking roller coasters you can have. So bear in mind, I'm relatively slow, but I had a really good start to the race. I think I was in like the second pack. So John went with the one of the ladies at the front, and I was in the second pack. So I stayed in the second pack for about 26 miles. And then they dropped me, and I had a really fucking low point, and I was just like, fuck it. It was just a slog then. And then I was thinking, shall I just fucking, no one's going to care if I drop out. I had that opposite feeling I normally get, is everyone's watching, oh yeah, but I was thinking, actually, they won't mind if I DNF. And I did have a bit of a fucking bad moment. And then to like top it off, I got to the checkpoint on mile 28. Bear in mind, I just had like 3 miles of feeling like utter shit. And I was thinking, I've paid to feel this shit, like, what a dick. Like, who does that? And I got to the checkpoint, and the race director was like, fucking at 115, I think, my bid members. Thank God you're here. We thought you'd fallen off a cliff. I was like, what? He said, your track has gone. Looked over. My track had fallen off. I was like, for fuck's sake. So he said, I can't let you go until we've put another track on you. But you're going to have to wait. So I was like, okay, so I got changed. So I had a full kit change. This is another good piece of advice for anyone that does their first ultra that's got a drop bag option. Fucking get changed fully. It's the best thing ever because I felt new when I left. Anyway, I was like top 10 at that point. I fucking overtaken by like 15 people waiting for my tracker. So I really pissed off, if I'm honest, and I was really pissed off with the race director at the time because I just wanted to get going again. I was ready, and then silly me, like, forgot to take any of my fuel with me, so I didn't take any more tailwind, any more gels. So I left the checkpoint, pissed off, and I felt really low because I was like, fuck, I was like doing really well. Like I'd never ever have a chance of finishing top 10. In my head, I just don't think I have. But obviously I did that day. And it's a little bit of regret that I lost my tracker, although I don't think it's my fault. I think the guy put it on shit and it's fallen, but it's probably in Bristol Channel somewhere now. I'm probably still part of the race. I'm probably down Cornwall or somewhere now, and so that shows I haven't had that many dark moments. I think I have had loads of just moments where I've just felt fucking awful, if I'm honest, but that one just stands out because the story. It doesn't change there though. So I had a text when I was running, so I had my phone out. I think I was running towards land, just after Landwehr. Are you doing the 100 miler? Because your tracker says you're doing the 100 miler. And I was like, they've obviously given me someone who's DNF'd. But next to my name was the Union Jack. Now, we've spoke about this before. Yeah. I'm the proudest Welshman in the world. Now I've got a Union Jack next to my name. So I'm then getting abuse from a couple of my mates who are like, why have you got a Union Jack next to your name, you traitor? I've got nothing against it, but I'm like proud Welshman. I'm on a Welsh flag next to my name. So when I did finish, the first thing I did, instead of just letting it sink in and that amazing ending I had, I went straight into the Norwegian church with the race director. I was like, you need to change my flag now. I ain't having a Union Jack on the results. So So apologies to any people who love the United Kingdom, but I'm such a proud Welshman, there was no way ever I was going to have that results page, wherever I was on the page, having that Union Jack next to my name. So we changed it so that I could take it all in then and relax. And then I had my fucking outburst of emotion when I just cried for 3 minutes. Because obviously you put a lot into these things.
Yeah. I think I said this to you when you first told me that story when we was running round Butte Park, where I was like, I'm English and I would rather be representing Wales in one of these things than England.
It's a funny story. It's a good one. The good thing about these ultras, I find, something always seems to happen, and they're always a good story to tell. I think you get a lot more of that from trail running. An example, I've been organising loads of recce runs for the 100 miler, and it started out by me putting a post on Instagram saying, does anyone want to come and join me out on the trails up in the Black Mountains? And I was thinking, it'd be great if 1 or 2 people just say yes, I can run with people and I'm not on my own in the mountains. There's now like 40 people in this group now, so there's me, Mr. Imposter Leader now, organising these recce's. But to be fair, because I'm organising them, I've got to fucking turn up and do them. So I think I've done about 60 miles worth now, and I've met some amazing people through this recce group itself. So what are we doing, like 3, I think we've done 3 big ones now, and we've got like one coming up in Feb. So where was I going with this? I don't
know, to be honest, mate.
I don't even know where I was going with it. So that's it, honestly, like, just having, like, going back to community then, like, having those people around has been, like, fantastic. Yeah. Like, amazing. That was it, the story. So one of the recce's we did was I organised a 21-mile loop in the Black Mountains in the middle of the night, because what we worked out is, obviously we're going to be running in, when you're doing a 100 miler, you can't avoid night time. So I thought, well, we need to kind of mimic what it's going to be like during the race, even though it's a slightly different time of year. So there's like 4 random people in a car park, 3 o'clock in the morning in Crickhowell, and we're going to be doing like Table Mountain, Wanvark, and a loop back round, because I think that's the bit I'm going to be doing in the night. So it makes sense just to go and do it in the night, see what it's like. Well, we did the fucking recce in reverse. So we all had the GPX files of the route that I created, but we all missed the fucking turning off. We ended up doing the whole thing in complete different direction, which I was like, fuck, that's not the point of the recce. But we'd look back on it and laugh, because there's little things like that happen, which it just makes that group. It's just funny. It's a funny story. And actually, it was probably quite a bit of a godsend that we did it the way we did, because the actual way we're going to have to do it is fucking brutal. So it was probably good we did it in reverse, because it was -5 degrees. It was up to Wanvark, the reverse way, was 11-mile climb. 11 miles of just constant climbing. It was brutal. And then coming back down the other way, back down Table Mountain way, it's quite technical. So for those who don't know what technical means, it's just really hard to fucking run on, because there's fucking stones and rocks everywhere. So we're thinking, fuck, if we were coming up that earlier in that weather, it would have been shit. So it kind of worked out well. So back to my original point, because I do like to go off course. Loads of things happen during these events. Most things happen in training. I don't think we talk that much about training. Most DMRs are training. Most of the things that happen are training. Most of the times you feel shit are in training. Most of the time things go wrong are in training. And we don't talk about training that much, I don't think, when we talk about runs. Everyone wants to know about the actual event. The event's done, like, you've done your event already, because you've done all the work, haven't you?
Yeah.
But so much happens in training. I remember John always tells me the story where a wild boar come running past him, like, and things like, fuck, like, you don't see that on a road run, on a 10k, do you? Like, it is really funny. Or falling over in a bog, you know, that type of shit.
Yeah.
I was at the Garth last week with Nathan Marshall, who obviously runs, who organises one of the other podcasts, isn't he?
Yeah.
He went for it.
Just Run podcast.
Yeah, it's a great podcast, and he was on his ass 3 times, because it's brutal out on the trail sometimes, especially with the weather. Like, the weather at the moment is just, And the thing is, you've got to get out because you can't really take much time off. I try to do the whole like couple of weeks on or 3 weeks on and try and have a bit more of a chilled week now and try and rest. So I've got this thing now where train hard, rest harder is my thing now. Sleep more zone 2 running. And it's fucking godsend. I haven't been injured in 14 months since I've been doing the whole zone 2 thing.
Fair play.
So yeah.
I can't give any advice about injuries because I am constantly injured. I've got 2 injuries right now as we're talking.
Because you go hard at everything you do. Like you're saying earlier, you run up hills.
Yeah.
Like if I was to run up all the like I can run hills, I can do it, but there's times when I do it, and there's a lot of times where I'll just power hike because that's what I'm going to be doing in my 100 mile. Everything's laser focused, I think, towards this.
Yeah.
So much so, I'm not really paying attention to the slam, and I should, but because this 100 milers is just the thing that's in my head, like every moment of the day. I'm seeing those first 3 slam races as like long training runs.
Yeah. So
I'm going to run slow on them because I want time on feet. And then I remember messaging Mike Jenkins last year, and I was like, "Fuck, Reece, I've signed up to slam and Epona," and he was like, "Yeah, just see those last 3 as your victory lap." I'm like, "But you know the Pigham."
Yeah.
So we got Epona 100 on the 22nd and 23rd of June because it's going to be over 2 days. 2 weeks later is the Pigham, but it's like pretty much the first bit of Epona, so it's going to be like PTSD, and I'm going to be a fucking broken man.
You're going to end up accidentally doing the 100-mile loop and being like, "What happened, guys? Like, I didn't see you for like 70 miles."
I think that Epona should also count as Pigham, so I can at the end they should give you the Pigham medal and say, "Look, don't come in a couple of weeks. Like, take that time off ready for I think it's the Edam then." So the Edam's like the big one in the slam.
Yeah.
Actually, the one I'm least looking forward to, which is the one I should look forward to most because it's going to be a shit fest for me, is the Canham. So the Canham is now
That's the canal one, isn't it?
Yeah, so it's the canal it's the Monmouthshire Brecon Canal. Starts in 14 Locks and just outside of Newport, and it's just concrete, right? My ex-partner lived right next to the canal, so over the last few years I've run the canal quite a lot, never knowing I was going to do the Canham eventually, so I know it pretty well, and I know the first like 10 miles of it because it goes up to like Pontypool, so I used to go up Pontypool and back and stuff like that, and it's just fucking, it's going to be brutal on my hips. I almost had a hip operation in 2019, so after my first ultra I went back to football. I played football for most of my life, but I had a few years sabbatical. Went back thinking, I'm super fit now. I can handle football again. Fuck, I couldn't, right? Because I ended up fucking injuring my hip really bad, right? And it's been a long road to come back to get any sort of like pace and stuff like that. So when I do these harder road runs, I do feel it in my hip. So I'm not looking forward to the pain I'm going to be under, but I am equally looking forward to the pain I'm going to be under in that race in, oh God, what is it? It's not long now. I think it's like 60 days.
Okay.
Anyway, not far at all. I feel ready now. I wish it was this weekend.
Yeah.
Because I'm just like, fucking hell. I had FOMO everyone was doing Brecon to Cardiff. And I was like, and then last week came, and I ended up going doing like a fucking really muddy trail run up the Garth and around Caerphilly. And I got home and seen everyone doing that race. I was like, fuck, why didn't I do it? But to be fair, the week before I invented my own ultra, which I call the overnight ultra, which I think is brilliant. I think everyone should. This is a really good tool, I think, to conquer big distances, but in an easier way, and still do an ultra within 12 hours. Yeah. So obviously everyone knows, you've talked a lot about it on your podcast previously, the 4x4x48, and I know you've got the Bob Thomas version, which is just insane.
Yeah. There's going to be a podcast coming out about that. I don't know if you've seen it. No. So it's not on this channel, it's on the Rockman podcast.
Oh, okay.
That's his first podcast back. So with Terry Rossman and Bob Thomas, previous guests. Like, I love that they're both previous guests. But because it's coming up in March when they do the official one, Terry was like, I want to do an episode like giving people tips for it. Who better to ask than Bob Thomas, the guy that did it for 8 days rather than just the 2. Yeah,
I think I heard that when David Goggins goes to bed, he wears Bob Thomas pyjamas. I don't know. That's what I heard anyway. So yeah, and I've kind of I've done it a few times now over the last couple of years. So what I do is I'll use my I live in an apartment. I use that as an aid station. So I try to mimic an ultra basically. So I'll do like and it's always road because I just live surrounded by roads right on Barry Island, and it's always overnight. So I can't be asked going on the trails in the middle of the night. So I'll do an 11-mile loop because I'm one of them, like an ultra. People that say that ultra is anything more than a marathon, I think it should always be minimum 50k, which is 31 miles, right? So I'll do an 11-mile loop. I'll go back in. I'll have a fucking shower, some food. Like a couple of weeks ago, I had a nap because I wanted to see how I'd react after having a little nap. And then a couple of hours later, I go back out again. And it's the whole thing of you having to fucking get up and get out again. But I'm not doing, they're not 4-mile ones, they're 10-mile loops basically, but in a 12-hour window. So, or just less than 12 hours. So when I put a message out, can anyone join me? Doing the whole thing, come and join me. So my friend Zoe, so like massive shout out to Zoe, she almost missed her alarm mine, but she turned up 15 minutes late. She got to mine at 3 o'clock in the morning, and she did the next 2 with me. She brought shitloads of snacks. We had enough snacks, right, to feed a whole ultra race in my fucking living room bed. Honest to God. So Zoe brought loads of snacks. I had loads of snacks. I ended up so I did my second loop. She joined me then for her first loop. And the second loop was fucking shit, right? I don't know if the nap had done me in. Now, bear in mind, I've never really slept much in between laps before, but I wanted to see how I'd react because obviously when you're training for a 100-mile race, you want to get these sort of little things ticked off. Yes, I've slept. This is how I felt after. Take a mental note. I think I don't know if his name was... Is it Paul John? I think there's an ultra runner called Paul Johnson. He's really good friends with like Andrew Glaze. Right, so Andrew Glaze does like minimum of 100-mile weeks on Strava. Yeah. He's really big on Instagram. I'm sure it's his friend Paul Johnson. I may be wrong. It may be someone else. He got these things called Nappuccinos. So what they are is he necks like a shot of coffee, goes to nap on the side of a mountain straight away, has like a 10-minute nap, wakes up, has another shot of coffee, and he reckons that literally completely like resets him. So that's what I tried to do. So I had a little coffee. I didn't have like an espresso, but I had like a strong quick coffee with a bit of milk in. Had a sleep, got up, had another coffee, was waiting for Zoe. She was late, so I just wanted to get going, but I felt like shit, if I'm honest. It worked. I was like, I got through it and I was awake, but it just didn't enjoy it that much. And then got back to mine. I cooked. Zoe's had her feet up on the sofa, right? Bear in mind, I'm 21 miles in now. She's just 10. So I'm cooking for her now. We had some snacks, had a chat and a catch up. And then my other friend Harriet, so shout out to Harriet for coming along as well. She joined me for third, and then we had the whole sunrise then. Oh, and it was fucking beautiful. So there's a lot to say about running from dark to light. It's such a lovely feeling, and it goes back to the whole little bits of joy. So we did the final loop. Now we're like 28 miles in, and I go up the steepest hill in Barry. I'm like, nope, we're going this way. Up the steep hill. I call it Teletubby Hill. It's basically a big grass mound, but it's like that. Well, it's where I do a lot of my hill sessions. Yeah. Because in Barry, you've got to really be select where you go. Because I live on the coast, so it's not like being up here when you're on the edge of these huge hills, etc. So I was like, they're not going to fucking moan about it. I'm 28 miles deep. They can't moan, but they didn't. To be fair, they were good sports. We went up Teletubby Hill, back down. Anyway, finished 31 miles, and I felt alright. And I think it's a really good way for anyone that wants to really build a distance. Now, it doesn't matter if that's a half marathon for someone, right? Not that I believe in half marathons. I know I think we spoke about this when I was out with you. But if you wanted to do 4 miles, 5 miles, and conquer that distance, it's a good way of doing it, just splitting it and having a rest in between. And it's valid. People say that's not a real way of doing it. It really is, because you learn a lot about yourself.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a whole different challenge. Like, the fact that you've gone home, you've sat down, you've put your feet up, and then being like, I gotta get out again. Yeah. And like, that was difficult with the 496. The fact that every morning I had to wake up and just be like, I've got to do it again. Yeah.
And it's further.
But even like I was splitting it up throughout the day so I could fit it around work, which in itself was a challenge for me.
Yeah.
And then splitting it up, and I was just like, I spoke about this in my podcast, where it's like on day 30, my ankle was wrecked, and I tried going on the treadmill at the start of the day before work, and I did 2k on the treadmill, and I was like, treadmill's like no better than the road.
You broke your ankle, didn't you, previously?
Yeah, so I previously broke my ankle, and at this point I've got a stress fracture in my foot from doing the challenge. That's why I was in so much pain. So I've been running for like almost a week on a stress fractured foot at this point. And I was like, okay, so I've got a gap between 2 jobs now to go and get like another chunk of distance in, and I'm out running. And like I'm looking at my pace, and I'm on the phone to my mum while I'm doing this, because at that point I just needed to talk while I was running, just as a distraction. And I was just like, I was looking at the pace, and I was like, I'm doing 10 minutes per kilometre. That means that like that's 6 kilometres per hour. So after work, when I get home later, I know that I can only fit in, because I get home about 10 o'clock, I can only fit in 12k after I finish work, and I've got 30k to do today. So I've already done 2k, so that's 28 left. Take away the 12, that's 16. I was like, I know I need to get 16k done in this gap, but I didn't think I had the time to do it. I was like, at this pace, like, there's no way I'm going to do it. And, like, I got really upset, to be honest.
Yeah.
Because I was like, I've pushed through pain, I've pushed through throwing up, I've pushed through everything I can physically endure, and I'm going to fail because I can't keep a pace and fit it around work. And I didn't end up failing it. Like, that gave me a kick up the arse. And there were parts where I was, like, running faster. I wanted to say like I was like going for it, but like I wasn't, because my foot was broken.
But relatively, you probably were.
I went from a 10 minute kilometre to like a 9:30 or a 9 minute kilometre, which is super slow. Yeah. But I was like, okay, I managed to fit in 18k, so I only left 10 when I got home. I was still running till like 11:45, but like
I got it in. Yeah.
So
again, and that goes back to the whole telling people that you're going to do it, and then you are putting that pressure on. Look, it is pressure, and it's something that we deal with a lot in this kind of community. But it does force your hand, and I think sometimes you do need that. So, you know, I talked earlier sometimes how it can be quite negative sometimes when you have got the expectation of the world on you, but also it does have a positive effect as well, because it does force you to turn up and live and deliver these things. That, you know, that challenge you did is just amazing. Like, I think I'll do it one day. Like, in theory I could have done it at some point this year, but I've never really looked into it, if I'm honest, and I've got obviously all these things coming up now. But I think it's something I'm going to have a crack at. I don't know whether to go, because I run in miles, so I've never run in kilometres.
Yeah.
I'm an imperial old-fashioned runner rather than the metric kind of new fashion. So in my head, my brain's going, but you're going to fucking have to do it in miles, Mike, because don't change to kilometres just to suit. Yeah. So in a way, I'm like, fuck. And I know Bob Thomas would be like
I was going to say, Bob Thomas will be proud.
Yeah, I would. If I was to commit to doing that, I'd fucking do it, because I'll just tell every twat I was doing it, and I'll just turn up and do it. And I think that's important.
Yeah. No, I think it's very important. Something I did want to ask you, because I know obviously you struggle with, like, I want to say you struggle with your mental health, but not sort of like in that way. I know you put a lot of pressure on yourself, and things like that. And this is a question I ask myself a lot, because I do the same thing. And it's something that I don't think most people think about until they're asked. And that is, what is success to you? Like, what do you look at and be like, if I do this thing, I am successful?
That's a great question. I think is it Chris Williamson, I want to say, who does podcasts?
Yeah.
Do you know the guy?
Modern Wisdom.
Yeah, really well-spoken guy. Could be great if you could get him on, wouldn't it?
Oh, I'd love to get him on. I don't think he'll come on mind.
Probably cost him quite a bit of money, wouldn't he? But he said something, and I haven't really watched much of his stuff, but you see snippets, don't you, on social media, and he said something last week, and it was just this, and it made me really fucking think, and it was like, do you remember that thing that made you happy? Did it make you happy? Or do you remember that thing that was going to make you happy? Did it make you happy? And that's my problem that I have, is I think that the 50 miler is going to really, that's going to be the point where I'm like, pure happiness. And you do have that short term buzz, and in reality, like, glory lasts forever, doesn't it? I'd go to my grave and I know that I've done that and achieved that, and that's great. So success for me, I think I said it earlier, success for me is accepting that I'm allowed to be low, in a way. So just accepting myself from that sense. And I suppose the cliche thing, happiness and success is my kids growing up and being happy, I suppose. But if it's just from a personal point of view, I think it's just being able to feel accepted in my life from the people around me, and I think I suppose that is success. The 100 miler, that's a success for me, because at the moment that is what I'm telling myself.
Yeah.
So if I succeed in that, then that for me is success this year, and then I think I'll need to find something else that is success. I think maybe it just always changes. Maybe I'm just someone that moves the goalposts a lot.
Yeah.
I think it's fine. I think you're allowed to change and move goalposts, and you might change. You have opinions. You might have a certain stance on politics, but in 5 years' time, you might have a completely different view because you changed, didn't you? And I think maybe success. I'd find it really hard to answer that question, if I'm honest. It's a really good one, but yeah, I'll tell you after the 100.
Okay.
Because I think, I'm in the middle of stuff now, and I've not really conquered a huge amount, or at least I don't think I have. I know I have, but I don't really believe it too much. But I think the 100 miler will tell me a lot.
I think you're probably not going to like this, but I think that is a great way to avoid the question. Because I think now is the time where you should really be thinking about that. I think this is something that you might have to go away and reflect on.
Yeah.
Because when you're in the middle of the journey, you need to know what you're aiming for. And I know you're saying like the 100 miler, but then you're like, I'll know what success is after the 100 miler.
Yeah.
But you're not going to know more then than you do now, in a sense.
No, I don't disagree with what you're saying. And it is a difficult question. I guess for me as well, and going back to the whole, starting therapy and fundraising, it's maybe success is the bigger picture in terms of what's going to come after the 100 miler. What legacy can I build? Like, at the moment, I wouldn't say I would have much of a legacy. Like, my kids are really proud of me. So, like, Isabella and Luca, I know they're going to listen to some of this because I've swore quite a bit, so sorry. But I'm, like, mega proud of my kids. And I grew up being ashamed of my dad. Like, so a lot of people will know this who know me, is my dad left. Last time I saw my dad was like my 16th. The last time I remember seeing my dad was my 16th birthday. Say goodbye, love you, blah blah blah. I haven't seen him since. We call him like the world hide and seek champion, right? We put a bit of a jokey spin on it. I was never proud of my dad. He was a waste of space as far as I'm concerned, which was proved by him just upping and leaving. So I've always wanted my kids just to be really fucking proud of me. Like, I would never say my dad's name because it's like Candyman. I cannot say my dad's physical name. Like, it goes through me. We're going into more therapy stuff here, but kind of give you a bit of an insight to, like, maybe my childhood. I want my kids just to be really fucking proud of me, to say that's my dad. My son is a fantastic little runner. Like, really good, naturally gifted, like way more naturally gifted than I am. Loves trails as well, and this is not something I've pushed on him. I've gone out with him and he's like, I want to run, and I think I've done 7 park runs in my life, which is mad for someone who's been running for so many years. Partly because I don't like bumping into my old run friends, if I'm honest, because it's just awkward after the whole thing back in the day. And 2, I just don't need 5Ks, just terrify me, if I'm honest. But when I go, I have like a nice chilled zone 2 catch up with someone. But I took my son, and he was fucking brilliant. Like, he's only 8 and he's like sub 30, like, which I know, I'm not someone who loves times, but he was so proud of that. And then last week we went up the Garth and I took the kids, and my daughter, who is not a runner by any stretch of the imagination, if you knew that makes sense, she was running up the Garth. She's like, I'm going to do some trail running. And I'm like, oh my God, if I inspired my kids, because I've never pushed them into that. Yeah. So my kids, obviously a big part of what I do. And then I'm thinking, like, in the bigger picture, potentially, if I was to try and answer the question, is what I do in the future success after I've got some more wisdom from what I do? Yeah. I've been thinking, and I'm going to put this on camera now and on the podcast, and this means I'm going to have to fucking turn up and maybe do something, because that's the type of person I am. I was thinking that next year is potentially doing something to get kids into trail running. So we've got junior park run the kids can go to, and it's a run around the park. But I don't really see anything out there that really gets kids into like trail running around nature. Yeah. Now, like where I live, we got a big park in Barry called Porthkerry. It's perfect. It's a really safe place. There's just loads of forests, and I'm thinking, because I love trail. I love working with children and seeing growth and development, the same as you would in gymnastics. And I don't see a market out there for that sort of thing. I don't know about if you see anything like that, but maybe my calling is to do with bringing people through and helping others.
Yeah, no, that's interesting. Yeah, I've not noticed anything like that.
I don't think there is. Like, imagine having some like cool little mini ultras for kids and just doing relative distance. Yeah, it's like, like a 5 mile round a forest trail. Yeah. It's like the equivalent to an ultra for some little legs, and it kind of putting a spin on it like that, and really getting kids into trail running from early doors, because what tends to happen with trail running is you're a road runner and then you move into trail. That's generally what happens, because people jump on the trails and they're like, oh my God, this is lovely, this is peaceful, this is a bit slower and nicer, and there's some snacks and everyone's just so lovely. It very rarely do I think people start off as a trail runner. It's generally, unless you live in the Lake District and it's in your blood, do you know what I mean? Or you live in Brecon and it's on your doorstep. Yeah. Most places you just become a road runner. So maybe something along those lines. And I remember saying before I do my little reveal now. So before we come in here, I talked about a podcast I had when I was running the other night. And I love zone 2 running, right? So just a big advocate for just go slow, right? 80-90% of my runs generally I could just chat, right? And then it gives you a bit of leg room there. And when you're doing the harder sessions, you've got plenty in tank to have a go. So I was thinking of a podcast idea, and I don't know, you're the podcast expert now. You can tell me shit, and other people can tell me shit. But I want to call it Zone 2, like TWO, and it's 2 people running. It's me, the host, or someone more charismatic than me, and another person, and they're not allowed to run out of Zone 2, or they can run in Zone 1 or whatever, but they're not allowed to get out of Zone 2. And the purpose of the podcast is to talk openly and freely while running really slow. Now, most people don't run slow enough, especially when they start. They're like, I don't enjoy running, it fucking hurts. I'm like, if it's hurting you, are running too fast. If you have to just waddle, right, that could be your Zone 2. If you have to stop and walk, that could be your Zone 2. So I had a podcast idea of athlete, runner, whoever it could be, picks the distance, host and runner runs, filming it somehow. So the logistics of it, I've not thought that far, right?
I've got some great ideas for you.
Okay, right. And then you can talk about the stuff that we talk about today. It could be, talking about men's health, women's health, running. You could talk about any old shit on a podcast in theory. But the idea is to prove that you can just run and talk and that's accepted and it's fine. It's really important. Yeah. So I don't know what your thought is on that idea, but I think it'd be quite cool.
I really want you to do that.
You do you?
I do.
Shit.
I'm so excited for that. You got to do it. I'm sold.
You like it?Maybe you can get on.
It. I'll be a guest. I'll be your first guest.
You can be the pilot, and you can help me with the technical aspects of things and how you get it. How you publish these things. But I just think it's people talk Zone 2, but they don't really do it. There's always funny memes I see where people name their Strava, like what people name their Strava runs. And I name all my Strava runs and I'll put zone 2, but I'm generally in fucking zone 2, right? But you'll have people be like, chatty run with Jane, right? And they're like 180 BPM average heart rate. And you're like, that wasn't a chatty run. You are not in a chatty run. There's a lot to be said for that. So I think it's important to get out there, like the real value of just running slow. It's not all about pace and PBs. Sometimes it's just having the space to talk, and I'm going full circle back to kind of therapy and just being able to talk. The value of just running with someone and just getting everything off your chest is so big, and it's big in the run. It's big in the road run. I know I talk about trails, but it's the same in road running. You get out, speak to your friend for half hour over a 5k, whatever you do. You feel 10 times better when you get home.
Yeah, I think you need to start that podcast this year. Like, as soon as you can. We'll go over it afterwards. But the reason I think that is because I'm one of these people that has all these ideas, and I'll come up with hundreds of ideas. And unless I've acted on it, and I've realised, like, my capacity is a week, if I haven't acted on it within a week, it just gets added to, like, a to-do list somewhere. And I will never do it. Because then my to-do lists get too long, then I throw them out, and then I start a new one.
Yeah, you don't want to do 50% of a big list. So you want to do 100% effort of less things sometimes, don't you?
Yeah, but I first wanted to start a podcast, and I'd be way more successful if I did this. When it was 2016, I wanted to start a podcast.
Back in the early days of podcasts.
Yeah, I didn't even listen to podcasts then. I had no idea podcasting was the thing. I wasn't even going to call it a podcast. It was just going to be like a YouTube video of, like, me talking. And the premise was, because I used to do free running, and I lived with free runners, and then I started this thing, I called it Pancake Club. So every Wednesday, that was like my day off back then. Oh, it was either a Wednesday or a Thursday, but it was like an odd day in the week.
Yeah.
I would make pancakes, and I would invite everyone I knew round. It was like an open invitation.
Why didn't I fucking know you in 2016?
And it was just like, you come round, you have pancakes, and, like, we just, like, we would always do some, like, mental stuff. Like, one week, I've not actually, like, told people about this, like, unless you know, then, like, you're not gonna know.
Yeah.
I have, like, manic episodes sometimes, and I got this butcher's knife, and I cut up a sofa. Just randomly, like, that was one of the things we did.
You're like a dog if you've left a dog, like, if you've gone to work for 12 hours and you've left the dog at home and you come back and they've chewed. That's what you did.
So, like, we did that.
What breed of dog would you be?
Oh, God knows. What's the most mental one? Like, what? Like a Jack Russell?
Yeah. Oh, you're definitely bigger than a Jack Russell. God knows.
So, like, we would do things like that, but it'd, like, be like this big event, like a weekly pancake club. And then I was like, well, we're starting to get, like, quite a good number of free runners in, and it was like this very specific thing to the free running community. And I was like, we could make, like, a video where each week we get someone different to come on, like the same as a podcast, and we'd make pancakes, but then we'd interview them while we're making pancakes. And it'd be like a half-hour video of just, like, us talking and making pancakes.
Tossers on podcast, yeah.
And I was just like, oh, wow, like, we could do that. That'd be a great idea. Never got round to doing it.
Yeah.
And then I had this other idea. So I started this other thing 2 years ago now. It was called Monday Club. So that was then my...
Remember you were telling me about this on the 496. Go on.
So it was my day off. It was my only day off in the week. Getting quite low, and I wanted to help people improve their mental health, like the people around me, essentially. So we started this rock climbing club, and every week we'd just go out and I'd teach people how to rock climb, and we'd just spend time out there, just, like, in nature. Sometimes people wouldn't even climb, they'd just come and, like, sit there and just talk and be out in nature with us and just enjoy being outdoors. And it was really beneficial for a lot of people for a long time. And I had this idea, I was like, I really want to start a podcast. Like, I listened to enough of them, I know enough interesting people, and what I was going to do is I was going to take them out rock climbing, teach them to rock climb, and then sit down and was going to, like, cook, like, a steak over a fire or something, and just, like, sit around the fire and talk and record it. And I was like, that'd be an amazing podcast. And slowly over time, it's sort of evolved into this podcast now.
Yeah.
Which is a lot more practical, easier to run, but like...
It's just been like 8 years in the making, really.
Yeah.
Just, you found your calling now.
Yeah, and...
I really love it. Like, so if there'll be some people who probably listen to this episode because they know me, but I definitely urge people to like go back and listen to some of the athletes that have been on here, which put me to shame. Absolutely put me to shame. Because it's real. That's what I love about your podcast. It's just like I say, it's conversation, and it really resonates with real people. So you should be really proud of what you've achieved. I'm just like in here, it's really cool. Like this is like this is brill.
Yeah, it's a tiny little studio, but it does the job.
Does the job. I'm not hugely big, so this, I'm fine. I'm fine here.
Coming from that, then I'd be really interested. I know you haven't listened to like a huge amount of the podcast, and you're still catching up. And it might just be like all of the podcasts you've listened to, but for those listening, what would then be your 3 top picks for ones to go and listen back to?
I don't want to rank the people that I've listened to, because they're all equally like really they're all great, and I know a couple of the people. So I'm going to say the one that I don't know, because I don't know Terry Rosman, but the way he articulates things is so good. Like I found myself really engaged, so I recommend that. And then you've got and I loved all the episodes I've listened to so far. Lee Davis, I know Lee. He's a great guy. I love the way he speaks with such passion about what he does.
Yeah.
And then Rhys Jenks, because he's lived it and breathed it, so you really believe that, you really feel it. And he comes from a different, because he runs his own organisation to put on ultras, etc. And he's gone and done things like Bad Water and stuff. I think he really, he's lived and breathed it. So you really look up to him. Looked up to all of them. But yeah, Terry Rosman, really just loved the way he spoke.
Yeah.
Loved to go out on a run with him. Just to chat, to be honest. Cause
well,
I think
he's up for it. So we're gonna organise it.
We should do like a group run from the people that have been on.
I actually want to do that as
That'd
like a
good.
yearly thing for adventure athletes. Is at the end of each year, just invite all the previous guests on to celebrate like
make pancakes.
It being a year. I was thinking like Pen y Fan's got like a special place in my heart. So just like a team track up Pen y Fan, but always doing it with like a different twist.
I think we'd have to do it with a twist, because Pen y Fan is just a walk up a path, isn't it? It's the thing. Like Lee pointed this out, I think is really good. A lot of people have never done Pen y Fan in South Wales because they put this block on there. It's like fucking Everest. It's not. It's like it's a couple of miles walk up a path. Yeah, it's a bit steep in places. I'm not the biggest fan of Pen y Fan because it's just packed full of people. Yeah. Generally, I prefer other places in the Beacons and over in the Black Mountains. But absolutely, I think it's important if we're doing something that you have a twist on it because of the nature of the people doing it. You've got Lee, this one Pen y Fan. Do you know what I mean? You've got and these other guys who do these mad challenges, and they've got that mentality. And they're my type of people. Like those, I look up to those people. I wanted to mention on the podcast around like influencers and elites and versus like everyday people. Now, when I'm talking about influencers, I'm talking about like the famous influencers like Goggins, etc., etc. And there's some influencers out there. They're more like micro influencers, I guess. Like Andrew Glaze. Like they're such good people, and I really love their content. But you know what the most inspiring people are? They're just the everyday people, just the everyday Joe Blogs. They got a full-time job, they got kids or they've got commitments and stuff like that, and they're out there doing this sort of stuff. They might not be the fastest, and I know we spoke before I come on here. In running, a lot of the people who are really fast get a lot of the plaudits, and rightly so. Those people are winning races, etc. But there's people out there who are suffering, like, and almost missing cut-off times. Like the day they've had, it's mega. Like you've spoken previously around your experience with your first ultra in OTT, and I think you were how many minutes from the cut-off?
Within a minute.
Within a minute, the cut-off. Like, the person who won that race, like, amazing, fair play, you know, kudos. You've like, really suffered, because you've been on your feet for all that time. Like, how many hours was the cut-off?
10 hours.
There you go, you're running for 10 hours. Like, that's just, it's, like, some people can't compute that in their heads, 10 hours. So I think there should be, and I think you did say that some ultras have, like, some sort of, is it an award or something for someone who... Yeah, like a suffer score. They're like, there should be like some sort of suffer score, and these people need to be celebrated. And the people in the middle of the pack who don't get anything, like they've had a horrible day. And I think there's a lot to be said for people. There's a lot of people that need shout outs as well and need that pat on the back. Just the everyday people.
Yeah.
Like, and for those people listening who are just not very fast, middle of the road, like, I'm really fucking proud of you, and I don't know you. I think you do amazing, and you should be really proud of yourself.
On that note, there is someone I actually want to give a shout out to. I have no idea if he listens to this podcast.
Okay.
But I met him.
Tag him.
Yeah, I'll tag him. I met him doing the OTT, the one that I did last year. I met him at the finish. He was already there. He was finished, and I was speaking to him. And I just happened to see him pop up on, like, I'm part of South Wales community running group thing. I saw him, like, post it on there, so, like, I liked it, being like, oh yeah, well done for your event. And then, like, within a week he was posting, here's another long run I did. And I've just seen him popping up constantly, just like, here's another ultra I've did, here's another one. And he's not winning them, he's not, like you're saying, he's middle of the pack in all of these ultra. But the sheer amount that he is doing is just absolutely incredible. His name's Stuart Felix. So if you listen to Stuart...
do you know what? I've seen his posts.
Yeah.
So I know who you're on about just by his face.
Yeah.
And this is, again, I think he'll post a lot because he knows that'll keep him accountable. Because once you start posting what you're doing, like, shit, I've got to keep doing this now because I'm known for this. And you're right, he is someone that would definitely deserves, like, a massive round of applause in that sense, because there's just people out there doing all this stuff, and then, like, I would love to have a way where we can just celebrate all these people, because it is, you know, the influencers, they'll always get the, you know, they always get the likes and all that, which is fine. There's a market and a world where that exists. There's the elites, so like Courtney to Walter, I think she's just absolutely insane, like, amazing. Probably my favourite, like, elite ultra runner. I think she's just incredible. And there's a place for those people, and they deserve to be where they are because they've just got this insane talent and they know how to use it and apply it. But yeah, I think it's important to also shout out those
she, funnily enough, talks about the same thing. I listened to her on Joe Rogan podcast, and they're talking about her Moab 240, where she wins by, like, 10 hours over the, like, second place, which is insane. And then she's talking, being like, yeah, like, I was out there running for the least amount of time. There's people that are out there for 5 days, and she was like, I don't think I could do that, like, to get up again day after day.
It's mad to think, actually, if you said to her, you've got to continue running until the last, that'll be a great event. That the winner is not allowed to stop running until the last person crosses the line. Imagine that. Just come up with that.
Interesting. That's kind of like when you started saying it, I thought you was going to say about, like, backyard ultras, where it's just like you keep running the lap until there's one person standing. But having, like, a set distance, but you have to keep running till last place crosses that distance, and then everyone else.
And see what everyone gets.
It'll be whoever wins does the most distance until last person finishes like the 50-mile mark or whatever.
Yeah, something like that probably existed, like I don't know, 24-hour races essentially are that, I guess, because it's the time in it.
Yeah.
But it'd be interesting to see from an elite point of view now. So, what's the it's gone blank now. The guy who won the Spine a few weeks ago, Jack. Can't think of his name.
I can't think of his name.
Anyway, he's done the Spine, right? And incredible. I think he averaged 16-minute miles. Now, to a road runner, they probably go 16-minute miles and turn their nose up. To do that over 278 miles is just... I think he had 52 minutes sleep. It's just I can't even compute that. It's mind-boggling. But John texts me like 2 days later, 3 days. My friend is still out on this because his friend was doing the spine. He's still out there. I'm like, he's still out there in the snow and the blizzards and the hills, and there's people out there, like, and there won't be anyone at the finish line for that person, potentially. Yeah. There might be, I'm sure there will be, but there won't be any media about that person. That the person's gone through shit. Do you know what I mean? So it's important, I think, for me just to shout out, because I think I'm just an everyday person. Although a lot of my friends don't say that, they all say I'm mental for what I do, even though I think I'm quite tame for an ultra runner.
It's just who you're comparing yourself against, because I always struggle to fit in with the people around me, because they are like, I would be like, there was this one thing I did. I went to Pen y Fan with a couple of my mates.
Yeah.
This was before my ankle break, so like I'm still building that mental toughness, and I'm like best shape I've been in physically. And it was just after I did my OTT Ultra the first time. We went to Pen y Fan. It was snowing, and there was 3 of us, and the whole exercise was to build our mental toughness and resilience. So we was like, right, what are we going to do? So we get to the start, and we pick up a boulder, and we're like, we're going to like carry this up. So between us, we carried a boulder on the way up. We get to the top, and then on the way down, I was like, right,
I didn't roll the boulder back down Pen y Fan, did you?
No, we left it at the top.
Made it slightly higher.
Yeah. And then I was like, right, on the way down, we're going to do some like intervals. So we started doing some intervals, and then I was like, let's really test ourselves. Let's go barefoot in the snow. So then we went barefoot in the snow on the way down, and then we get to the bottom, and my mate's like, oh, there's a river there, let's do a cold water dip. So we all like jumped in, like, you know, there's that little waterfall just past the bridge.
Yeah.
We all jumped in and stood under the waterfall, which was a laugh, and it's like snowing out. And I remember I went straight to work from that. And my manager, when I turned up, they were like, oh, you all right? You had a good day? I was like, yeah, I've just been up Pen y Fan. They were like, oh, it's
just carrying boulders,
bit cold in it.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, it was cold. It was snowing up there, so we did some barefoot walking, and then we jumped in the river at the end. They're like, you are insane. And I was like, I don't think I am. Yeah. So when you compare yourself to like people that don't do the stuff, then it's like you kind of are. And I really found that hard to deal with. But then that's why I started this podcast. I wanted to find more people like me, because I really struggled fitting in. And now that I found people like me, I'm like, wow, I'm not doing enough. Like comparing myself to Bob doing the 4-4-48 4 times back to back, and comparing myself to Reese doing double bad waters on his own for a laugh. It's just like,
I think it's sometimes it can be a negative thing being in this community, in that sense that it doesn't matter what level you are, there's always someone. No, Kipchoge now's got Kiptum who's faster than him in the marathon world. So like he'll be like, I'm not doing enough because Kiptum's now got the world record or whatever. You know, I've grown to now, I think I've got there. I just accept where I am and what I do, and I'm so happy for someone doing more than me.
Yeah.
And I'm really proud of people who maybe don't do the distance I do, but have got their own goals.
Yeah.
And I try to tell these people, like, don't worry what I'm doing, because if you start comparing, you just steal away any sort of joy around it. Comparison is a thief of joy and all that. Because there's always someone that's going to be doing more. Because then people might say to me, someone said to me once, I feel like shit when I look at your runs, because what you do. And I'm like, but to me, that's... Like, I could look at someone else doing more than me, and I'm like, there's people I look up to, by the way, that I could feel like shit. So it's important for people to just be proud of where they are, because there's always someone's going to do more insane. So you've done this, you know, you've gone back downhill, Pen y Fan, barefoot. Someone would have done something like barefoot with, I don't know, after shooting their foot. There's always someone that's just something stupid in there. There's always someone out there that does it. So
well, like since then, I did my 50 mile barefoot, and part of that was like going over mountains.
Yeah, see, and I think, wow, there's no way I'm doing that, right? Yeah. I fucking hate being barefoot at the best time. So, like, I'm one of those runners. I don't struggle. I don't get bad feet. Like, I don't have bad, like, you'd never. My feet don't look like I'm a runner, so I'm quite fortunate now. But I'm really precious over them. So, like, the thought of battering my feet over 50 miles, I got a lot of respect for you. But I would look at you and be in awe of that and be like really happy for you.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be like, oh my God, he's doing more than me. Because I think the thing I've got from being in this community is just celebrating everyone around you, whether they do more or and when they do, perceive to be less. Because I don't think it is a thing of more or less. I just think it's you, again, like going back earlier around it being you're the main character in your story. Yeah. So just do you. Do you know? And if everyone just did that, we would all be happier because we're not comparing.
I think what it was for me that makes me feel so good about seeing other people doing more than me is I always feel like everyone always tried to put a limit on what I could do, and I knew I was capable of more.
Yeah.
So then when I was pushing it and they were like, no, you're stupid, and people call me crazy, and I hate it when people call me crazy. Like, some people take it as a compliment, but I absolutely hate it because I know that I struggle with like my mental health and stuff.
Yeah.
And then sometimes I feel like I am actually crazy, and it makes me feel horrible. So when people call me crazy, I'm not like, that's like, it's not a compliment to me. Like, I'm not like, I feel like I'm crazy because I'm doing more than you. I'm not trying to do more than you. I'm just trying to push myself and be a better person.
And fit in.
Yeah. And then to be called crazy, it makes me feel awful. So now to see other people doing well, and then to have people like Bob turn around, and like you were talking about this, like Bob's my John. Like, you've got your John who's pushing you to do your crazy stuff. When I was doing the 496, the first message I got off anyone was from Bob, and it was saying, why aren't you doing it in miles, Will? And like instantly, I was just like, yeah, I needed that. Like, I need someone to be like, what you're doing is good. Like, he wasn't taking that away from me. It was like, this is how I read it anyway in my head, was what you're doing is good, but you are capable of more. And I took it as a genuine question of like, why aren't you doing it in miles? Like, what's stopping you? To just see, like, I think he was trying to prod and be like, there's got to be a reason. Like, what's the reason for you setting that limit to yourself? And for me, I then went back and I was like, for me, it's time. I'm starting a new job. This was when I was starting my second job.
Yeah.
So I was like, I'm starting a new job. I don't know how it's going to fit in with my time and running the podcast and doing 2 jobs. So I wanted to do it in kilometres because I feel like it's more manageable for me. And I'm so glad I did it in kilometres because I have no idea how I'd have done miles. But I know in the future, at some point, I'm going to want to do it in miles because I'm like, I've achieved that thing and I know I can achieve more. So I needed that. I needed those people around me to be like, look, what you're doing is great. Don't take that away. But what's the bigger thing for you? Like, is there a reason you've set that ceiling? If there is, great, fine. If not, like, you can do more.
I think there's a lot to be said for that. Like, I've got probably some alternative views on endurance. Like, I've been very open about this to my friends and in the past and people I run with. Is there used to be, it still exists out there, where there's this whole thing of gradually build up your distance, like 10% a week, and you're thinking, fuck, if you're an ultra runner, like, it's going to take you ages to get to that distance. I think sometimes it's important just to stretch, just to fucking go like a lot further, because you are capable of so much more. I know this because the prime example is the 50 from last year. Now, before that, I'd never done more than 34 miles. So somehow I had to find 16 miles on that day, and I just did, and I was fine. So I think the whole thing of, gradually build up your distance, it puts mental barriers on runners, because they're like, oh no, I'm only allowed to go 1 more mile this week, and then I'll do that. But actually, what if you just went 10 more miles? What if you just have a go?
Yeah.
What you'll find is you stretch yourself. Will it hurt? Yes, it'll fucking hurt. If you go slow enough and sensible, you won't get injured. Your recovery might be a little bit longer, but actually mentally you've ticked that distance off. And then that's the distance, that's generally the main difference between road running and trail running. I think when you trails and ultras, is those people will just go and they'll just go and batter themselves one day. And then I needed that, and I did it a lot when I did it when I was road running. Actually, I cheated the whole gradual thing when I was a road runner. I think I I think 6 weeks after I started road running, I did a half marathon.
Yeah.
And I won't do half marathons anymore, because mentally I tell myself I won't have to do anything. So I'll do like 13 miles bang on, or I'll go and do 14. I'll never stop on 13.1 and call it a half marathon, because in my head I'm like, don't ever have to anything. And it's just mentally how I work now. So it's quite controversial, I know. There'd be people who want to achieve in a half marathon, and that's great, and I think it's amazing to have that in your mind if you want to achieve it. But because I did it, and I've got, like, I do an ultras, I tell myself now, it's just one of my little mind hacks. Don't have to do anything, so don't do a half marathon.
Yeah.
Just don't do it.
I think that's great, and I think that fits in perfectly to what we're talking about of, like, why are you setting that ceiling? Because that's all it is. You're setting that ceiling for yourself. And I try and explain this to my gymnasts. I tell them all sorts of stories and things like that. I'm very, like, expressive with my gymnasts when I'm trying to, like, get a point across. They love it. I get that from my manager. He's taught me to be like that because he does the same thing. And I saw the buy-in from the kids, and I was like, that's a great way of doing things. But it's like, why are you setting that ceiling on yourself? Like, they're like, oh, I think I'm only capable of a half marathon. And they've set that ceiling. And I think Grant was talking about it on his podcast, where he was like, I did half marathons because I thought that was an achievement. But after you've done it, it's not really. But then, this is going to sound a bit crude, but then it's like almost mental masturbation. It's like when you're ticking off the same goal each year and being like, yeah, look at me, I'm achieving this thing. When, like, deep down you know you're not.
Yeah.
But you're just, like, ticking it off and being like, yeah, I've done another half marathon.
It's a really good way of putting it. So when I did that first half, I had the high. I was like, it wasn't even an event. I just went out and did it. And I was so happy. I was like, oh my God, I fucking done a half. I fucking told everyone about it. I've done it. I've done a half marathon. And then quite quickly, I need something else I need to get that same feeling. I need the hit again. But you can't do the same thing to get the same feeling. You've got to go, got to double, you've got to move up. So that's when I decided to, like, sign up to my first marathon. And I speak to a lot of my friends who have done half marathons and haven't done anything further. And I'm like, go and do a marathon. And they're like, oh, no, I don't know. I was like, honestly, it would change your fucking life. Your mindset changes, I think, when you crossed your first marathon. And I think your self-belief just goes up tenfold on a full marathon. I really do. Because generally in that first marathon, it is that first event you'll ever probably have a wall, some sort of wall, whether people believe it exists or not. If you say it exists, it'll be there, right? To get through that, or like the thing I said earlier around, I want to just jump in front of a train, mile 22 or whatever. When you get to that end, your life changes that day. I saw like a quote, those inspirational quotes online. If you want to do something, run a half marathon. If you want to experience a different life, run a marathon. If you want to talk to God, run an ultra kind of thing. And it's true. I think when you hit ultras. Now, I'm going to say something controversial. Road marathons are harder than ultras. To a certain extent. I'm doing a 100-mile race this year, which is a complete different kettle of fish, isn't it? And like in my head, I think 100 miles is like the epitome. I know it's not like a Moab 240. I know it's not a multi-day thing, but I just think that 100 mile, that number, in one day or 2 days, in one go, I just think it's something magical about that number, innit?
It's almost like a rite of passage in ultra running.
Yeah, and that's what's fucking doing my head in, is I'm not there yet.
I'm not. You've done more than me.
I'm not there. So I'm in the middle of the journey, and I think road marathons, the pressure on your pace is so intense during a race. It's awful. It's horrible. We're in an ultra, like, you can walk, you can chat, you can have snacks. You've got the aid stations, they're lovely. The aid stations on a marathon are just grab. You see them, don't you? You see people grab the water and then spill it or whatever, and that's it. You're constantly on the go. I think at my first marathon, I averaged like 179 BPM heart rate. I averaged for like 3 hours 50 or whatever it was. Like, honestly, that was it was horrible. It was really hard. It's like a different pain in it. I think road running, the pain, can you handle the pain in your chest and your lungs? Because they're always like shorter distances, faster, versus an ultra is, can you handle the pain in your brain and your legs? Because you're not running fast enough to really push your lungs. Or, there will be ultra runners out there that run in like zone 4 for ages and they're amazing, and fair play to them. But for the everyday people like me, I do find marathons harder.
Yeah.
I do them in training. Like I'll just go and do a marathon. Like I'm known to lace up my shoes and go and run a road marathon just out of nowhere. Because mentally I'm like, I should always be able to do that, so fucking do it, and I'll just go and do it. And then I get to it, I'm like, I didn't fucking enjoy that. But I know I can just do it when I want.
Yeah.
And I think you talk about ceiling, and I think what we don't talk about enough in endurance running and ultra running, I think, is your base. So you're like, okay, what's your ceiling? You're putting a ceiling on yourself, you know you can do more. Actually, what's your minimum expectations you've got? So I always tell myself I could always run 10 miles if I want, ever. I could just put a pair of my Dr. Martens on and I could go do 10 miles, like easy. So I think having a base and a minimum expectation is also important when you're long distance running, and mentally telling yourself that 10 miles is easy, it's just a nice short run. And when you tell yourself something's quite easy, generally it is. Like when we're doing these recce's in the Black Mountains now. I think we had a 26-mile recce in the Black Mountains a few weeks ago. Now this is 26 miles in mountains. Like some people would be training for months to be an event. We just did it as a recce because it's part of the 100. And all you tell yourself on those training days is, I'm going to go out with some people. It's going to be really nice. We can have some snacks, take some photos, and it's going to be a nice day out on your feet. And do you know what it was? It was a fucking nice day out on my feet.
Yeah.
It's because mentally you're just like, it's going to be a good day. Like you got all the views, and we went up. We did this big loop, and then it's just really funny. Like, so there's a summit called Lord Hereford's Knob, which is an actual summit name up in the Black Mountains, and it's just the little things like that get you through those runs. And one of the boys needed a wee on the mountain, so he turned away from us because he obviously didn't want to wee in front of us with his dick in his hand. And then walkers came up there over the crest, so he didn't know where because he was there with his Lord Hereford's knob, right, just in his hand, and we in. And there's little things like that, like I think that just make those days fun.
Yeah.
And when you make running fun, which I think is really important, you just love that's where you love the journey then, rather than the destination, because it's all the little stories that happen. But yeah, long story cut short, road running is really hard, and road marathons are just awful. They're just horrible, and I got massive respect for those that do them and continue to do them, because after a couple of years of doing them, I'm like, oh, fuck, I can't do this all the time, because it's just brutal, absolutely brutal.
Yeah. I feel like we could honestly talk forever.
I know. I was thinking, what's the time? What time do we start? Yeah, so I'm driving up to North Wales tomorrow, actually.
Tomorrow?
In the morning, yeah, for work. So I was like, I looked at the forecast, I was thinking, do I run up? Because I ran up Snowdon last year, so my team came up for a team build. So I ran up Snowdon, come down, and then I went hiked it with my team, because apparently I'm crazy, and like they all tell you you're crazy, but it was just part of, I wanted to go and do it, and I loved it. So I'm up there in the morning, but I think that the forecast is horrific. So I'm going to have to look for somewhere else to run tomorrow. But look out for my run tomorrow, because I may be in some random place up north near Llandudno. So yeah.
I'm excited to see that. So, you know what's coming.
I know.
Last question on the podcast. As a listener, you know we set a weekly challenge. So what is your challenge for this week? So mine's not a massively overly physical challenge, which maybe go against the grain of adventure athletes, but I want to link mine with men's, I say men, we throw the word mental health like a lot to me, but men's mental health. And for someone who probably grew up not really fitting in and not really feeling a part of something or not feeling enough, like, and they're kind of, this is why I am going to therapy to learn more about that. I would like people, right, and linking it to running in zone 2, is think about a man that you know who on the surface is doing really well, would happily get some running shoes on and get out with you. I want you to go for a zone 2 little run, or even if it's a fast walk if they don't like running, and I want you to let that person open up, and I want you to tell that person how much they mean to you. Okay?
I want you to tell them how much you appreciate them and that they're doing a great job. Because I think you will not realise how many men out there just need to be told that right now. So my challenge is a quite personal one. It's not an overly stretching one, but I urge people to get out with someone one-on-one and get a little run in and just explain to them how much they mean to you. Whether that's a friend, family, partner, yeah.
I think that's great. That is an amazing challenge, so thank you for sharing that one. It's definitely needed in these days. So thank you, and thank you for coming on. I really appreciate your time.
My pleasure. It's been great.
Yeah, it's been a good little catch up. So
yeah.
Before we go, I've just realised there was one question I didn't ask, which was sent in on Instagram.
Okay.
And that was the one about would you rather be on a mountaintop or the Canton stands?
And was it Hot Wings that sent this?
Hot Wings, yeah.
So Hot Wings, shout out to Hot Wings. I actually met Hot Wings in my first ever trail race. So me and Hot Wings used to have we were like PB twins. We were like the same speed. Now he's grown to become a lot faster than me, and I just do more ultras and stuff like that. But big shout out to you, Hot Wings. So I'm a massive football fan. I love Cardiff City for all my sins. It's more torture supporting Cardiff City than is running ultras. So if you want real suffering, is go down to the city. Where do I feel the most happiest? At the moment, probably in the mountains, if I'm honest, because that's where there's a lot of joy. But I have had some of my best moments in my life on the terraces watching football, because, again, going back to whole feeling a part of something, football's very tribal, and actually feeling a part of a football family is really good. So I can't really answer, if I'm honest, because it just depends on the day. Yeah. But at the moment, definitely in the mountains is where I prefer to spend my time. If I had to pick now, a Cardiff City game or going out for a long recce in the mountains, I'd pick the running at the moment, if I'm honest.
Nice.
Yeah. So,
well,
good question.
Thank you. Almost forgot about that one, but yeah. Good. Thanks for coming on, and
my pleasure.
Yeah, I'm sure we'll be in touch.
Yeah, definitely.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Adventure Athletes podcast. If you like this episode, make sure you follow us on Instagram, Spotify and YouTube, and share our content around. It helps more than you can ever imagine. Now, if there's a person in particular that you want to hear from, or a topic that you want us to cover, just drop us a message, let us know in our DMs, and we'll make sure we try and reach out to the relevant people to cover that topic for you. We're always trying to make content that you guys want to listen to. We have just dropped our website. It's adventureathletes.co.uk, and you can go on there to find out the range of different services we offer. So we have sports massage, different training programs, and personal training, both online and in person, that you can sign up to on the website. So make sure you go and check us out at adventureathletes.co.uk.